it's just depressing, right? Because you want to think that it's like David versus Goliath, but it's really like...
It's David versus God.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, at best, you're just going to like get a little bit coming to some other people, but you're never going to hurt your target, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that is kind of a sad thing, is that like, in most, you're going to mildly irritate this giant corporation, but they're never going to really have to do penance for anything they did.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 581 with a review of Dark Waters. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week in the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest film releases coming to a theater near you. This week, we are talking about a film that may be coming to a theater near you. I feel like it's playing in very limited release here in the city, but it should be... It should definitely be a
cover-up, I think.
Yeah, DuPont's spending a lot of money to make sure nobody sees this film. But yeah, this is a story about a major chemical company that made a chemical that was hurting a lot of people, and it's sort of about the study of or a man who was basically trying to sue the company to get them to stop and let out the truth about what's going on with this company. So, Stephen... being a good hypochondriac that you are, did you go through all of your pans once you got back from seeing this film and try to figure out if you had Teflon in any of them?
So the only thing that defines me more than being a hypochondriac is being incredibly lazy and self-justifying when it comes to any sort of like need I have to modify my consumer behavior. So despite being massive hypochondriac, I never once... I remember I talked to Joanna the night like we got back from the movie, and I was like, yeah, nonstick pans have Teflon, but like probably not very much. Like, I didn't even like think about it more than that. I was like, they wouldn't do that to me. So no, I did absolutely nothing.
Like in real time, I did not... I know DuPont, the name DuPont.
Sure, we all watch Foxcatcher.
I knew this film was about poisoning of the nearby towns. But when this was like, oh, the chemical that we're poisoning people with.
DuPont, Du Lake, even Du Ocean.
But like as soon as the film got to the point where it was like, yes, the chemical in question, this PFOA, is the primary active ingredient in Teflon, which is like a household name for my entire life. Yeah. I was like, what? And I definitely was like, okay, I just moved, got my own place and bought like all new pans. I was like, these are new pans, right? I mean, these can't have Teflon in them, right? They have to be totally safe and fine. And the entire movie, I was like, get to the part where they're going to tell us that like all Teflon's gone now. And we'll get into it a little bit later. But I definitely...
Spoilers, Teflon is still around.
Yeah. I definitely did some research on... Like, I have few enough products at home because I have like sets of things that it was easy for me to research what chemicals are being used in my stuff, but I'm still not super confident about things, and I'm definitely never going above medium heat on my stove ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so... This is a fun film to sit through.
Yeah, fun holiday film.
But yeah, it definitely makes you think about the last several years of your life where you've grown up eating food that was beyond your control.
Yeah, I mean, was sticking that bad? Was it worth it?
But yes, what do you say, Stephen, when we get into this review of Dark Waters?
Let's do it.
We are going to take a listen to the trailer for this film, and then we're going to come back and give you a review.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains.
Hi, Grammars.
What are you doing here?
Your grandma tells me her grandson's some fancy environment lawyer down in Cincinnati. I am a corporate defense attorney. So? I defend chemical companies. Well, now you can defend me. How many did you lose? 190. 190 cows. You tell me nothing's wrong here. It's a small matter for a family friend. Help a guy who needs it.
The farmer or you? That's chemicals, I'm telling you.
I'm seeing documents I don't understand. They're hiding something. That chemical. What if you drank it?
Drink it. It's like saying, what if I swallowed a tire?
What if whatever's killing those cows is in the drinking water?
That's DuPont. Better living through chemistry. It's our DNA.
You need to tell me what in the hell's going on.
DuPont is knowingly poisoning 70,000 local residents for the last 40 years. You knew, still you did nothing.
You want to flush your career down the toilet for some cowhand?
You want to take everything that you know and turn it against an iconic American company, like an informant. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Isn't that right?
Yes. They have all the money, all the firepower, and they'll use it. I know. I was one of them. Our government is captive to DuPont. They're trying to force you to make me stop.
He was willing to risk his job, his family, for a stranger who needed his help.
The system is rigged. They want us to think it'll protect us. We protect us. We do.
All right, so as mentioned before, this story follows a man who is actually a corporate defense lawyer who generally would be defending large clients like a chemical company or something like that. And he is put in touch, or he has been put in touch with, through his grammars, a farmer in West Virginia.
Yeah, West Virginia.
West Virginia. And
I feel like Take Me Home Country Road plays sometime
yeah,
in the
it definitely
movie.
does during a fun montage of him driving back to the city. But yeah, so basically his grammars puts a farmer in touch with him and says like, hey, I have a cattle ranch, a little farm that I do my stuff.
Exactly that eloquently.
Yeah. My cow's dying over here and they die, and then there's something in the water. See all them rocks are bleached. And then, and basically he says like, look, I know this is the chemical plant. I've called all kinds of people. Nobody will do anything about it because they're all on the take or whatever the thought and conspiracy might be. Yeah. And he goes like, look, here's a box of tapes. Look at this shit. You decide for yourself if you want to defend me. And Mark Ruffalo watches some of these tapes, goes, I think there might be something here. And then proceeds to spend like the next 20 years of his life or whatever it is. I think it's like 15 or maybe less. But basically,
I think it starts like 98 or something.
Oh, so yeah. So he basically spends a huge chunk of his life going through all this paperwork that he's able to subpoena the company for or whatever it's called. Basically, he sues them for documents, going through these documents and trying to bring charges against this company for poisoning this neighborhood, the state, the country, the world. I don't know. We will find out. But essentially, it's a huge portion of his life dedicated to trying to take on this major company who managed to create a deadly chemical that went unregulated by the whatever regulatory part of the government exists to manage chemicals. Yeah. Stephen Miller, what did you think of Dark Waters?
So I feel like this was a solid, but not particularly showy, not wanting to be showy procedural, in the sense that this is a movie that lives or dies based on the true story it is telling. And that's kind of it. It's the sort of thing where I go back and forth as to whether, like, I am really happy that it is what it is, or I wish a documentary had been made on 1/10 the budget instead. Yeah. The reason is that, like, none of this movie is stylistically very interesting. I feel like it's kind of purposely being very neutral. Like, this is Todd Haynes who did Carol, for instance, and this is, like, as far from Carol as I can think, right? This is not a movie that is, like, luxuriating in anything. This is a movie that's very, like, the world is gray. The word is kind of beige. This is just a lawyer who's like walking around, solving things. The end. You know, meat and potatoes. Like, we're just going to tell this story. We're not going to glamorize it too much. We're going to try once with a car, like, key in the ignition scene that doesn't really fit or make sense.
So awful.
Like, worst part of the movie by far. But for the most part, we are just going to tell this story exactly how it went down. And this kind of story has been told many times before. Like, the most clear examples I can think about, The Insider. I talked to you about it recently. I watched that on the cruise. And Aaron Brockovich, which are two movies where, like, I'm going to say much more engaging lead characters are fighting with a big corporation to kind of, like, prove their malfeasance, and some third party, a lawyer or someone similar to that, realizes just how much sway the giant corporation has over the public. All of those, like, both of those movies, I think, are stronger than Dark Waters because they have, like, really strong, charismatic lead performances. They're directed in a way that just has, like, style oozing out the ass, and in general, that's kind of what you want. Also a byproduct of drinking drinking Teflon. But I think a better comparison to this, not just because of the Ruffalo connection, is Spotlight, in a movie that is, like, again, we are just going to tell the procedural. We're not going to make it flashy. We're just going to make you, the audience, be filled with a kind of righteous outrage over what the man does to the world and what it takes for the little guy to overcome it. And I think on those grounds, this movie is quite successful. I think Mark Ruffalo is a very empathetic lead character, even if he does kind of, like, underplay himself. Like, he is not he's a hero, but he doesn't play as a hero, right? He plays as a kind of, like, awkward, unsure, never really knows what the right move is kind of guy. And the movie does not give him very many wins, right? He is kind of, like, beating his head against the wall, occasionally having arguments with Anne Hathaway, but otherwise...
But I don't think that makes him a loser.
And she, I gotta say, is playing the kind of stereotypical, like, wife of a great man in a biopic, right? Where she's like, I'm not going to support you until the second it matters, and then I will. Like, and it's all very kind of, like, paint by numbers biopic, but the real story that it's telling is just so compelling and insane to me that I'm very glad I watched it, even that if I don't know that the movie itself is justifying its existence beyond giving me an outrage, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel. Like, when it does try to go big, like the key in the ignition scene, it kind of, like, doesn't work, and it falls prey to a problem that a lot of these procedurals have, where, like, everyone is an expert in their field, but in order to communicate to the audience what the problem is, they have to, like, explain very basic legal concepts to each other.
Let's say you have a carbon atom, and let's say you have 3 more carbon atoms. That would be really strong carbon.
Yeah, exactly.
But what if you had 4 more carbon atoms?
Yeah.
That is C8, because it's C for carbon and 8 for the number of carbon atoms you have. Can I get the steak?
Or, like, Mark Ruffalo, for instance, explaining to all of the partners in his law firm that work at defending chemical companies, like, so they got to report what's regulated, but what about what isn't regulated yet? Have you ever thought of that in your entire life?
The actual film is the South Park version of the film.
Exactly, yeah. It's very, very, very on the nose, but I feel like a soft spot for it anyway, because I found the movie completely gripping because the story it is telling is gripping. And as it kind of seeps closer and closer into modern day without clean solutions having been found, I realized the movie is probably half an act of, like, actual social outcry, right? Like, Mark Ruffalo is a producer of sorts, and, like, without knowing anything about the movie, I want to imagine that he was like, God damn it, I want this movie to exist, and I'm going to put my name on it, so, like, people go see it. And so to that effect, I think this is a successful movie at what it wants to do. But I do think it's very paint by numbers, and just as a film without the true story, it's take it or leave it.
Yeah, like, if this was a made-up story, it doesn't have, like, the flash of the Hummingbird Project, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't have that fun side of it to make you care about these characters. It's just like a, holy shit, I'm pretty sure my whole life I've cooked on Teflon. Yeah. Or food has been prepared for me on Teflon. What the fuck is this story? Why did I not know about this? How did I live this long without knowing, oh shit? And like that aspect of the story is interesting. I think that the film as a whole, if you are somehow able to separate out the the story it is telling and the title cards at the end of the film, this is a bad film. Or at least approaching a bad film. It's not really that great, and it's really unfortunate too that, like, you know, you already referenced Spotlight, and you know, even the fact that Ruffalo is in both films, Spotlight is
so much better than this movie.
It is the walk hard of this type of film, right? Which I know I'm referencing the joke version of that film, but Walk Hard did the walk hard thing so well that real films hope to be the fake film.
Yeah.
Spotlight is the only journalist film that can exist anymore, in my mind. It's so good, and it actually shows the process of doing the work. In this film, and another film that we may record a review for later, The Report, I think this is I kind of wish you already saw The Report so that we could do these back to back. But in both films, this is not on the grounds interviewing people that shit happened to. This is, I signed a piece of paper and a judge said, give me all this paperwork. And then I spent 14 years going through the paperwork and then trying to fight this through through bureaucracy, basically. So it's not piecing things it is completing a puzzle where you have all the pieces. Yeah. It's not a scavenger hunt to find the pieces and then once you have them all, building a puzzle.
Well, he also solves it like a third of the way through the movie, and I think that's part of the narrative issue with the film is we all know what he's going to learn already. Like, it's kind of laid out for you from the very beginning.
Well, we don't know the part that he isn't going to learn, which is the fact that Teflon doesn't exist anymore, because it does exist. So that was, I mean, my half of my
PG&E and Philip Morris still exist too. So
true, but it's yeah. But at least PG&E is trying. Like, they just won a thing, or the people whose lives were destroyed at least have settlements coming to them. But basically, watching this film is kind of like holy shit, I can't believe this. And what the film does well is takes it from the story of this small town having its citizens poisoned to, it wasn't just that the runoff from the factory was killing people and killing livestock. It's that the chemical itself, which was being used in products that were being shipped worldwide, is the thing that was killing these townspeople. So even though it's technically not killing you, you're being exposed to it, and it's a common thing that's in everybody's house. It's in their carpets, it's in their rain boots, it's in basically fucking anything that needs to be waterproof. Yeah. So it's one of the, and also I know, like, here at the office, they've been doing a lot of construction around the neighborhood, and it has caused our water to turn colors. Until
dark colors,
dark waters. Until the water started changing colors, I didn't know the high percentage of people that just drink tap water.
I'm one of them.
I've drinking like Brita filtered tap water. Like, I have a Brita filter at home right now in my fridge.
How often do you replace it?
The filter. Well, I bought it, like, I've only lived in this apartment for like a month and a half now. So so ask me again in 6 months, or whatever it is. But when I buy them, I usually buy a couple. So if I remember, I don't really set the date, but every once in a while, I'm like, if it's the kind that has the red light that flashes, I'll replace it. But either way, the point being is that, like, I've never really drinking just like I drink water that comes from a tap and it goes through some charcoal rocks or whatever the fuck is in a Brita filter, and then it becomes.
I'm gonna order water. A new filter while you're talking.
But it's like a thing where, like, I didn't realize that some people just pour water into a cup and then drink it.
Yeah.
Until the water's like this shit was being ingested by people, and the corporations knew it was bad. Like, this is crazy shit. And like, it was amazing to just watch this film and be like, yeah, but when does this come out, and when do they turn it around? And then it just, at no point in time does anything ever get better. And it was really kind of a terrifying. There are revelations in the film, which, once again, the character isn't doing work to uncover. He's just finding the page in the company's files that does that. But the information that is being revealed is very, very compelling and kind of frightening. And this is like one of those things where it's like, is this a good film? Maybe not. Does this film have significance? Should it be seen? Yeah, most definitely. I mean, this is the narrative version of Icarus, right? Where it's like, okay, so you made a film that was like honestly not very good, but the things that you revealed are like, wow, good on you for figuring that out. This is like the opposite of that, where it's like, yeah, you actually have really important shit to tell, and you meant to tell it from the beginning, but the way you're telling it isn't necessarily compelling. And I think that there are like the moment where, you know, he's afraid to turn the key in his thing. Like those kind of things aren't that exciting. Like part of the thing that is so compelling about the story is DuPont would never need to kill anybody because literally they could just get away with whatever they want. Like, but like that's the thing is what is scary is like in a conspiracy, it's a person is willing to kill another person because if the truth comes out, they'll be in trouble. DuPont's never going to get in trouble. So what the fuck do they care if this guy's going around reading shit and trying to sue them, right? Like it's one of those things where it's like he's not in danger because they don't give a shit.
Yeah. And this is the depressing nature that's true in Aaron Brockovich too, where like even at the height of it, I'm not going to spoil too much of this movie, but like when money does come up, the biggest risk DuPont ever faces in the whole movie, as far as I can tell, is like $200 million total, right? Yeah. This is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that makes billions in revenue every year alone. Like
they were making $1 billion in profit every year from the sales of Teflon alone.
Yeah. So there's like, it's just depressing, right? Because you want to think that it's like David versus Goliath, but it's really like,
it's David versus God.
Yeah, exactly. It's like at best you're just gonna like get a little bit coming to some other people, but you're never gonna hurt your target, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that is kind of a sad thing, is that like at most you're gonna mildly irritate this giant corporation, but they're never gonna really have to do penance for anything they did. Honestly, the weird thing to me is I remember 4 people in this movie. I remember Mark Ruffalo. I remember Bill Camp, who you've been doing great impressions of all night. I remember Anne Hathaway, and I remember Tim Robbins as his kind of like the lead lawyer. And that's it. And of all of them, Mark is the only person I remember doing anything more than like 2 minutes in this movie.
Yeah. I do remember one of the actors, I don't know his name, but he plays Chidi on The Good Place.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
He's the guy.
William Jackson Harper.
Sure. Yeah. But I remember all the scenes because they're also in the trailer, but also because it's Chidi.
He was in Midsommar too, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I remember him too.
So there's 2 people I remember.
He's the guy that's wrong in the trailer.
So you want to take all the things that you've learned being a corporate defense attorney and turn it on them like an informant. Something like that.
Yep. No, you nailed it. I thought you were going to make a joke out of it, but no, we're just saying it straight.
I'm just quoting what I remember.
Yep. No, yeah, it's just like not a very memorable movie, and it's a weird conundrum because I still recommend people watch it, but it isn't. It should be an HBO movie. I think that's how I feel. It should be a movie that you see on HBO, and on a Sunday afternoon, you're like, yeah, I'll throw that on, and you're going to enjoy it in the way that you enjoy like a documentary about Theranos or something, right?
You'll throw that on, and then you'll throw all your pans out.
Yeah, exactly. Toss the pans out the window, get new ones. Get an Instant Pot.
I texted you on my way home from the theater and was like, I just went to the website that makes my pans. In the facts, it says something about we don't have PFOA or AO. We only have PFETE or something. And I was like, all right. But then today I was like, nah, that wasn't enough. So I'm Googling about that. And apparently like PFOA is used in the production of the other chemical.
No.
But like
PFTE is even worse.
But it doesn't have like... It's used in making it, but nobody will explain what that means. But apparently it doesn't exist in the actual chemical itself. But the PFE whatever stuff, if you heat it above 500, like basically...
Where does PF Chang's come into this?
No, but here's the thing though, man. I'm telling you, this is like a deep... Like I'm fucking off the deep end here. But like now, like growing up, your parents were like, don't use the fork on the pan because it'll scratch it, right? They were telling you that because basically... If you do that, then the nonstick surface will be cut, right? But here's the thing. You scratch that shit, basically every time you cook, that stuff breaks down and turns into an aerosol that you breathe in.
Oh, no, because I've scraped, like, cooked meat goop off a pan all the time with a metal fork. I'm going to die, Chris.
I'm just saying it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing.
Okay. we need some more yarn.
But at least DuPont wasn't torturing people, right?
Yeah. At least it wasn't shooting wrestlers.
Mine was a call forward to the episode that we may or may not do for the report.
Yep.
But yeah, any last thoughts about good old Dark Waters?
The report doesn't have Meryl Streep, right? That's the other movie.
That's the Post.
Okay. No. There's another one this year.
The
Laundromat.
Yeah.
Cool. Got it. No, nothing more for Dark Waters.
Well, in that case, Stephen Miller, let's get to our verdicts for the film. If you're going to give this a must-see, recommend with a caveat, wait for rental, pass with a caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
I'm giving it a friendly wait for rental. I think this would be a good rental. I think you ought to rent this movie. I think you would enjoy renting it. I almost bumped it up to recommend with a caveat. I have to admit that as a movie, it is not that great. Like, it is all message and nothing else. And there's just too many good things out right now to really spend time seeking it out, unless you're me and Chris and you watch everything, in which case, by all means, go watch this movie, because only 8 people did.
So this is one of the hardest things to rate. Mm-hmm. If I knew off the top of my head of a DuPont Teflon documentary that was on Netflix right now, I would say pass with a caveat, go rent that documentary. But I also think fucking see this movie. Because the shit's crazy. So I'm going to give it a recommend with a caveat. Mm-hmm. The caveat is that it's bad. But I think it's something...
But it's not as bad as dying of some terrible illness.
It's not as bad as...
Mad cow disease.
I don't have them in front of me, but there's 6... There are 6 legit disorders / diseases that have 100% unequivocally been linked to consumption of PFOA. Or AO, I don't remember which one it is. Mm-hmm. But just, yeah, it's not as bad as those.
So watch the movie and throw away your pans.
Yeah, so watch the movie and throw away your pans. Yeah, so that was our review of Dark Waters. Stephen Miller, if people want to find you throughout the week, where can they find you?
People can go to twitter.com/sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me standing maniacally in my backyard shooting guns at passerby helicopters as I try to protect my farm from what I think is DuPont.
You're bearing the lead that you have a backyard in San Francisco.
Well, it's all that DuPont money. But no, in seriousness, people can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or Twitter.com/ChristopherIRL. You can find the podcast over at TheSpoilerWarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so in Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at Twitter.com/SpoilerWarning, Facebook.com/TheSpoilerWarning, or Instagram.com/TheSpoilerWarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@TheSpoilerWarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from the soundtrack to Dark Waters, so hopefully you are enjoying that. We are going to take off. We have more things to record, so we will see you in the near future.
Bye.